Today we're going to talk about listings. How many of you like listings? Good. How many of you love listings? Yeah, anybody not like listings? Good, that's great, because in my opinion, everything you do as a real estate agent, every marketing effort, every sales effort should be on the listing side, in my opinion. If you get lots of listings, what else do you get? Lots of buyers, that's right. So you're going to get buyers and sellers. But what's so great about a listing? I mean, let's talk, there's lots of things, but what do you like about listings?
Somebody else is trying to sell it while you're doing something else.
Okay, good. Yeah, someone else is doing the work for you. I like that. That sounds good, yeah.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I'm on 86 homes. I've shown this couple a house.
Yeah, I am not a fan of the buyer side when it comes to that. How many homes do you want to see? Yeah. And by the way, I don't want to sign a contract, and yeah. Any other reasons? What was that?
Show off your work.
I love that. Did everybody hear what he just said? It shows off your work as a real estate agent. Remember, what we do as agents are viewed by them, and the money that we make determines how they feel about what they paid. Does that make sense? Right? In this great, wonderful country of free market enterprise, we get to decide what we buy and how much we pay for it. Even in real estate, believe it or not. I know real estate's been around for a long time, and the NAR is very traditional in some things. We've got a strong hold on what happens in real estate for the most part. There's still FSBO out there and all that, but for the most part, everything seems to revolve around a real estate agent that's licensed, that puts a sign in the yard, puts a home up on the market, another buyer brings a buyer agent brings a buyer, and that's just kind of the way things work. The ability to showcase your value as a listing agent to the person that's actually paying, in most cases, both sides, is the one way to increase your visibility and your ability to grow your business. But you have to be distinctive in that offering, just like any other free market offering that's out there, right? When you go buy a car or your clothes or your food or whatever else, you know that you have choices. And the choices are based on three primary value propositions. We've talked about this before in other classes, but I always want to remind us of that as business owners, because sometimes we forget. We forget that people have choices and that it's good for them to have choices. We want choices when we make purchases, and they typically fall within three primary value propositions, or three drivers towards those purchases. What are they? What drives you to the purchases that you make? Price is always, it's the most important one actually, kind of the common denominator. What are the other two? Okay, wants or needs, that's what drives it in the first place. But once you have a want or a need, then you're going to make a decision. So now we're talking on that decision place. We're going to decide by price. Value, exactly. Value of the product or service, because it could be either side of that. In our case, it's service, right? So the value of that, very good. What's the third? We forget about the third one a lot, but it's super important, especially as technology continues to advance. Anyone know what that third one is? It's like one of the primary drivers right now, even in our industry.
Being relevant.
Relevancy is still good. That's really good. But once you feel that, if you want to make a decision, like let's say you decide you want to buy a certain car, right? Then you're going to start looking at different options that you have, different dealerships and stuff like that, price, and then quality of the product or service based on the model or make of the car that you want. Convenience. Did you know that? That's another primary driver. How many of you buy a lot of things based on convenience? So in order to be viable in a market, meaning in order to be competitive in that market, you have to be the very best at one, competitive at the other two. Does that make sense? So if I were to ask you as a real estate agent, what are you the best at? Price, which means if you want to be the best at price, what does that mean for your consumer? Low price, right? That's what I mean when I say price. Walmart is one of the best at price for what they offer, right? When you think about those that offer really high-end services, if you think of Walmart, then you got Nordstrom's on the other end or something like that. Does that make sense? We have choices that we make. You can go eat at McDonald's. Nothing wrong with it, by the way. I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with any of the choices that are made. We just make choices based on those three primary decisions. We can pay less for things, we can get more convenience, right? Sometimes they're coupled in a lot of ways because you have to be the best at one and competitive at the other two. Does that make sense? If I were to ask you as a real estate agent which one you're the best at, which would it be between those three?
Value.
Value. Quality of the service. Raise your hand if you think quality of your service is what sets you apart in the marketplace. Just about every hand is up, right? Because no one wants to be the lowest price. Anybody want to be the lowest price in here? You could be. Do agents succeed at the lowest price? Are there agents out there that promote low price? Yes. There are. And is there anything wrong with that? To you, there might be. You might hate that. How many of you know about your low price competitors out there, right? How many agents hate, should I say their names, right? So, or dislike, should I, because it's a little strong. Homie, your homies out there and those other options that are low price. How many of you know brokerages that push low price offerings, flat fees and things like that? Do people get attracted to them? Why do they get attracted to them? Yeah, because it's about what they want, not about what we want. And so that's the other component of this. If you think about it from the consumer point of view, I have a choice. I can choose you or you as a real estate agent. And then within that choice, I'm going to think about price is very important, especially on the listing side. Price is super important because for them, it's about the net gain. On the buyer side, your price isn't so important because of what? You're not directly paying for it in most cases. And again, we have to be careful as this is being filmed to say that the whole NAR ruling was about that, right? Should the seller have to pay both sides of the commission? Really what it came down to, honestly, was that they think that agents make too much money. That's really what it came down to. The precedence was that there was an antitrust against kind of forcing the seller to pay both sides. But really, the thought is wow, agents make a lot of money. How many of you feel like you make too much money? Yeah, we talked about that last week. No one would ever say that. We got into this business because we want to make good money. We feel like we have a professional service to offer, and listings is where that is showcased the most. You can showcase a lot of great services, a high quality of service on the buying side. You can do that, and we'll talk about that in 4 weeks, I believe it is. But for the next 3 weeks, we're going to talk about the listing side because, in my opinion, the best way to showcase your value as a quality of service is on the listing side of it. It's tangible and evident to them if you present it right. The unfortunate thing is, 3, 4, 5 years ago when rates were so low and people were just buying whatever house out there, you remember those days? The house could stink and smell and cluttered and all sorts of stuff, and it would still sell for over market value sometimes. The people that bought those houses are now what? Upset. They are. How many of you, did any of you have buyers from 3, 4 years ago and they're like, what the hell did you talk me into? Anybody? I can't believe I'm dealing with this house right now. They think their house value went down. Did the house values really go down here in Utah? They didn't. Did they pay too much for the house in the first place 3, 4 years ago? Yes. And so to them it went down, but for the most part the market didn't. They got ahead of their equity and they're still waiting for that to catch up. So quality of service is what you all believe that you have. Now, please understand from their perspective, because it's about them. They get to make the choice. Your quality of service, great. I'll choose you if there's a difference. But is there a difference? Can I tell the difference between what you do and what you do and what you do? For most consumers, when we did the research and asked them in focus groups what they thought that was different from one agent to another, they could not distinguish most agents and most services, even the discount services. You know how many people get so excited about putting their house up for a flat fee offering, trying to do FSBO? How many people do you have right now on the buyer side, even if you're a seller, and they're coming directly to the seller? The buyers are, because they don't want to sign a contract with a buyer agent. They think, what? Oh, I could get a better deal on this house if I go directly to the seller. You've seen stuff like that? That's something they think about. So just know, you have to understand their perspective, their point of view. And if they want one of those three as the primary value proposition that means something to them, quality of service does stand up there. For the most part, for just basic transactional services, it's not the most important thing to them. Did you know that? I know I hate to say it, but they're not thinking quality of service. Guess what they're thinking? On the buyer side of those three value propositions, what do you think is most important to them? Price. No, it's not price. Convenience. Why is it convenience? How fast do they want to look at that home they found online? Because the reason it's not price, and it is price overall, but they don't think of it that way, because someone mentioned it before, they're not paying, right, for that direct service. They're getting that payment from, where's the buyer agent getting the payment from? The seller. So the buyer's not thinking, oh, I got to pay. How many of you, if the seller doesn't give them enough commission, the agent, or give you, I should say, enough commission, how many of you are going to go after your buyer for more commission? Anybody going to do that? For most buyer agents, you're like, whatever they're going to give me, that's what I get, right? If you think about it from the buyer side, it's convenience. On the seller side, it's money, it's price, right? Your commission. How many of you, when you go into a listing presentation, feel like there's this big elephant in the room and it really has two main discussion points. What's the two big discussion points that's going to be top of mind for your sellers when you come and show up for a listing presentation? They're thinking about how much you're going to sell my house for. Like you have some sort of control over that. I think that's the funniest thing in the world, that they think that, oh, but this agent said my house is worth this much. And I'm like, great. You know, like that's really going to matter. It depends on what someone's going to buy the house for. Have you ever run into that before? Where they literally think the agent that they interview is going to basically determine what the house sells for. It does to some marketing stuff that we're going to talk about. But as far as the market value of the property, it has mostly to do with what? What someone's willing to buy it for, not what that seller is going to tell you that someone will buy it for. The other elephant in the, well, it's one elephant, but two main discussion points is your commission. Right? If they have to pay you less money, they make more money. Do you think that's on their mind? It certainly is. And there are agents that will capitalize on that. I'll sell your house. I know one agent, very good, does a lot of business, I should say, agent, and he promotes out there that I'll sell your house for 1%. He puts it out there on his ads and everything. Why does he do that? Because it's a huge value proposition. How many other agents are saying stuff like that? Most other agents are like, hey, you don't give me 3, I don't even want to do the job. I don't even like you if you don't give me 3%, right? We kind of hold on to our value of our service that it's worth 3% or so. And my idea of a consumer desire, a consumer need, is that they want to pay the least amount of money they have to, right, to make more money on their end. And we all as consumers want to feel like what we pay for, we get that equal amount of value back. If I'm going to pay a certain amount of money, I want to feel like I get equal amount of value back from that, even if it's an emotional decision and things like that. I am not a big fan, and this is where it goes to kind of this broker fee thing, is that when remember when you used to first get your cell phone bill? Anybody remember those days before everybody just got so mad about it they had to change it, where they would tell you that your monthly rate on your cell phone was going to be like $35, but when you got the bill it was like $110 or something, and you're like, what the heck, you told me it was $35 a month? And then you had all these extra fees and extra fees and extra fees. Anybody remember that? Anybody still deal with that kind of stuff? Yeah.
Oh, you want to use your phone.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Oh, you wanted to call after 10 p.m. Oh, yeah, there's an extra fee for that. Oh, yeah. Oh, you're not in your area. You went to another area. You're roaming now, so we're going to have to pay you extra for that. Remember all those extra fees, and we're like, I just want to call, and I just want to know what I'm going to have to pay without it jumping around so much. We don't love broker fees, honestly. And that's what, and when I say that, it's not just about we, because I just say that. When we actually talked to our customers, when we went through the research and development for this, they told us that. We don't like these fees when they seem like they're a fee. But I'll pay for something that I feel like I get value out of, right? If I go and eat a meal and the meal was wonderful and I paid extra for it, I'm fine with that. I hate when I go to fast casual or even fast food restaurants and they want a tip. This 15 or 16-year-old just scooped some ice cream for me and she wants a 20% tip. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so, right? But anyway, maybe that's a bad thing to say, but that's kind of what I think. So I want to feel like when I pay something, like, okay, I get that. It makes sense to me. I'm willing to pay it. Like if I get a really good lawyer, because that's a service offering, right? Or a CPA, and he helps me save money, or the lawyer helps me avoid getting sued, or whatever the issue is, yeah, I want to pay good money for that. But if it doesn't seem like I'm getting a lot of value, then I'm going to think, what? Oh, I got ripped off. How many consumers feel like all the time that thought that they didn't get what they paid for? Right? How many of you feel that way almost all the time, right? So how do we change that? I'm going to show you how to change that for listings. And when you change it for listings and your listing service and your listing presentation, you will be amazed at how many people want the quality of service, but they want it to a degree that they understand it, that's going to give them more of what they want. And there are two things that they want. We talked about the elephant in the room, of the two kind of thoughts they have towards what they're hoping for in terms of net gain and stuff like that. But the desire, the want, aside from making the most money for their home, is, what's the second one? Sell it in their time frame. And I'm so glad you said it that way. You must have read the book. When people buy and sell properties, you might be on one side of the transaction. You just want to get it done quick. Everybody thinks it's about being quick. Did you know being quick in our industry is actually not good for quality of service? Did you know that? If you're trying to be quick and you want them to be quick, how do you provide a great quality of service when it's just about being quick? How long do people think about buying properties? About 1 year, right? That's the research we found. They're thinking about it about 1 year. When do they finally contact you when it's time for a listing presentation? You get a call on a Wednesday and do your listing presentation. They hire you. They want the house on the market when? Friday. No, Saturday they want the open house, right? They want it listed on Friday and the open house on Saturday. And you should have all your pictures and everything else, done. That's why a lot of the pictures are done with cell phones. Have you ever noticed that with some of these properties? It's like, are you kidding me? You literally took a picture of this house that's selling for $500,000 with your cell phone, right? Sorry, I have some agents looking down now, but I just know that that's not quality of service. When you have to do something very quick, it's not necessarily quality of service. There can be. Remember, you're competitive at the other two. So you can be a fast food restaurant and still have good quality of service, but it's harder to do that. You can still be Walmart and still have quality of service. Well, I don't know. Because like when you go into Walmart, are there people there to help you to find what you need to find? Are there really, I love it when they have like 50 registers and only one register person there. The rest is self-serve. Basically for them, it's about low price. That's their value proposition that they pitch. And people, the parking lots are still full. You still have to walk a mile from where you park to where you want to buy something. But people still do it because of why? Because they save money, right? So if you want them to pick you and give you full price because of quality of service and give you the time to provide the value that full service means, you can't do it in 3 days. It just doesn't happen that way. So let's go through what I consider the best listing presentation out there. But I believe in this because we've seen it work. You might have a lot of other ideas of what works for you, and that's great. You can add to it, but I'm going to give you this presentation. You can have it. It's in Canva. You can modify it in any way that you want. It's fully copyright free. Okay, so now we're finally going to get to the really cool part about how do we nail a listing presentation. Here's the thing. Some of you are newer agents. If you follow this, you will get the listing and you'll beat out the veteran agents. If you are a veteran agent and you don't want to get beat out, I'm going to show you the technology that's going to make you then more, who said relevant before, relevancy? This is about being relevant. Because in today's technology, if we don't embrace it and we don't know how to use it, we are going to start looking old and out of date with some of these things. So let's go through it. In terms of this listing presentation, it starts out with someone giving you a call, hopefully. We have lots of ideas on lead gen for listings. If you're struggling getting the listing leads in the first place, it's not hard to get. But I will tell you that the conversion rate is what this is going to do for you. It's going to convert almost all of the people you talk to a raving fan that'll say, all day long, I'll pay for this, because we give them a reason to want to pay for it. It's amazing how well this works. You get this call or you get a lead, somehow this listing opportunity comes in. What's the first thing you do? Okay, you make the appointment, right? So that's good. You got to make the appointment. Do you have pre-listing questions? Oh, good. Do you send a survey? Do you ask the questions? On the phone? Good. I love that. What kind of questions do you ask?
Well, you need to know about the house, right? So you're asking questions about bedrooms, bathrooms, and the condition, any upgrades that they made, stuff like that.
So it's kind of like doing a little tour of the house before you come to the house kind of thing. How much they owe? Okay, good.
Yeah, I ask a lot of the questions you have as you're doing the tour.
But you ask it before you even get there. Oh, interesting, good. Yeah, run a CMA. How many of you do a CMA before you go? Okay, why do you run a CMA? So you have a good idea of what the price is, because you know that's going to be discussed. Okay, that's great. Anything else you do in terms of research before you go? Or I'm glad you asked questions, because that's part of research, right? Basically, this is a research piece of this element, of this presentation. I'm going to check and see to learn more about the house from the owner himself or herself. And then I'm going to do the CMA, which is research, right? And then I'm going to do maybe some research on, yes?
I look and see what's around that house and what's going to.
I love that. How many of you do that? Good. Do you write it down and bring it with you and to talk about? I love that. Awesome ideas. So here's the approach that we have. Now, I will say that as a business person, and I say that in a way that when I got my MBA and I started working for these great big companies, everything we did within our companies was create and follow SOPs, standard operating procedures. Now, what's the purpose of a good SOP in terms of a business development or a business model? What's so important about them? Consistency. Yeah, and you can hire, I love that, and you can hire someone else to do it. If you went into a restaurant and had an amazing meal, like you just loved it, and you love going to that restaurant, maybe there's a favorite dish that you have, and then a month later you come back and you have it again and it's still amazing. You might not know this, but there's a new chef in the kitchen. There's a new waiter, and even during the time of day that you go compared to the last time, but you still feel like you got the same quality of service, of product, of all those type of things. How does that work? It works when you have standard operating procedures and people follow those. How many of you in your business feel like you have standard operating procedures and you follow them pretty strictly? Good, I'm glad. Most agents don't. How many of you feel like, and I'm just going to throw it out there, you know, raising hands, because I know what it feels like, because I've been in this situation too, feels like I'm going to do whatever I can to get whatever I can from whomever I can at whatever price I can. Do you ever feel like that? It makes you laugh a little bit, because in a lot of ways with real estate agents, do you ever feel that way? I'm going into an interview and I'm like, I just hope I can get 3%, but if I don't, I'll get 2%. And if I don't get 2%, it's like being an auctioneer, you know, like, and then we even do this sometimes. You're my friend, you don't question it. I give you pay me 3%. We'll put it on the contract. You didn't even question it. I'm so excited. And you're this complete jerk that talked me all the way down to 1%, but I still want to pay my bills. Okay, fine, I'll give you 1%. And we're chameleons a lot of times in our offering. We're not consistent. We're doing whatever we can with whomever we can. Oh, you want your house on the market in a week? You're going to give me a couple of months and we can really do some good advertising, whatever that is, whatever. How many of you ever feel like it's hard to keep it all straight? You ever felt that way before? Like, oh, wait a second, what am I supposed to do with this person? And how much am I making with this one? And it's not very consistent. Having standard operating procedures means that you stand for something in your business model. And then people can recognize that and know that's what you stand for. How many of you have been able to say no to people before? Good. It's hard to do. It's hard to say no. And when we don't say no, we always just say yes. We become yes men and women. You've heard that term before, where we do whatever anybody asks us to do. You want me to jump? How high do you want me to jump? When do you want me to jump? They call you up and they want to look at a house. Okay, fine. I'm in the middle of dinner with my family, but I guess I got to go. Sorry, family. And we do it. Because a lot of times we don't have these standard procedures. So as I go through this and we talk about all these wonderful ideas you have, one of my biggest recommendations will be find what resonates with you in your business and build on that and keep it that way. And you'll find that people will respect you more. They will pay you what you feel you're worth and what you're offering. And if you need to say no, it's all right. You can say no and walk away from someone that wants something that you're not willing within your parameters of your business model to offer. Let someone that wants to offer a lower price, go to them. I even tell them that. If you want to do this for a lower price, there's plenty of agents out there that'll do that. I know a few, I can even recommend them. I do that sometimes. And I don't do it to be mean or malicious or to say it in a bad way. I just say, that's not me. And there's honor in that. There's value in that, and it shows in what you do, and then you can do what you do even better. So believe me, having great ideas and knowing what to do, decide what you're going to do, and then make that your brand. So when we go, and when I say we, I teach my whole team, and anybody that's on our team, we do it all the same way. When we go to a listing presentation, before we go, we do a CMA. We use a digital CMA program that I'll show you. AI is part of it. It does it in just a minute. I don't care if it's accurate or not in the beginning because they haven't paid me yet. I'm just giving them a presentation. That's what this is all about. It's a digital CMA. So what is so good about that is I don't print it out for them. They get it digitally. You know what's great about that? You know how if you print it out, you have that little black and white picture because we don't want to pay for color sometimes. And then we have this, I love it, you have all these homes that are like this, little tiny picture that they can't really tell that it's like their house or not. And then a whole bunch of stuff they have to read. How many of our people read all that stuff? They don't. And you give them this packet, but basically what we're trying to tell them is that one sheet they look at, this is what your house is worth. I don't even talk about that in that way. I'll explain how I do this, but I use a digital CMA to do it. But I love what some others said. I will do research on the community if I don't know it well. Now, I will recommend, and I'll teach you this in a few weeks. the go-to agent class, where if you go really deep in an area instead of broad, if you go really deep in your offering, that's part of your SOP even in terms of your business model, you'll find that you'll get more business and be better at the quality of service than if you go too broad. So if you don't know the area of where you're going to go with this listing presentation, find out good details about it. And when I say details, I don't mean, oh, you got some nice parks over here and you got nice mountain views like everywhere here in Utah. I love it when people say that. Find out what? What should you find about the community that's very specific? Get the names of the schools. Use the names, drop names. You should drop names because that's your expertise, right? What else should you know about in the area? If you know there's a golf course, don't say, oh, there's a nice golf course here. What's the ranch's golf course that's here, right? The lake, what's the lake called? What are the parks called? Write it down. So this is what I tell our agents. You're going to bring a notepad with you. That's part of what you're going to do. You're going to bring this notepad, and on the notepad, you're going to write the questions that I'm going to show you in just a second that you're going to ask them during as you go through the home tour with them. But you're also going to write down everything you know about what stands out about their community, about their area. And then be careful to try to believe that you know more about their home or that you know a lot about their home. That is a little presumptuous. Does that make sense? Be careful with that. Make sure that they understand and that you understand that they're the expert of their home. It's all right to believe that. A lot of times we go in as real estate agents with this kind of pompous attitude that we know the market better than they do. But my preparation before I go is I do the digital CMA, kind of get a good idea. And now when I do my digital CMA with my software, I still go one other place to see what it says that the value of their home is because I know that's where they went. Where do I go? Zillow. Yep, always. And usually if I ever throw out any number or range of numbers, it has to be something close to that. Why? Because otherwise I'm telling them that they're wrong and I'm right about something and they believe what they think is the value of their home, a lot of times based on Zillow. So that's the research I have before I go. Now, with me, I bring a pair of Oculus goggles. We don't have them up here yet, but I'll show you why and we'll go through that. I bring my notepad because I love writing things down, and I'll explain why it's so important to write things down. So don't just type it on your phone, or if you have a computer, type things on your computer. Actually write things down when you're with them. That's a part of our SOP. And then on that paper or whatever that I have, I've written down 9 questions, right? And I've also, with space to put answers to those questions. And I also have all those details about the names of the high schools. I'll put the names of the high schools down so I can remind myself. And even if I have to look at it, it's all right. I put the names of the parks. I'll put the names of some of the top, venues or things that are out there, because that's really important to talk names, actual names of the things that they're familiar with. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to do a tour. How many of you do a home tour? Yeah, good. Do you like doing home tours? Good, good. So I've actually heard I went to one conference where he's the CEO of one of the big brokerages out there, said, I'll never do a home tour. It's just a waste of time. And he was talking about how he just sits right down and goes through his spiel. And not that saying that it was bad or anything, but to me, I get the deal at the home tour. Did you know that? I get their trust, and that's what I'm trying to earn first. Because I can tell them anything as a salesperson, but it's not until they trust me that they actually hire me. How many of you believe that? It's not until they trust me that they hire me. And they can't trust me if I keep spewing out stuff, especially if it's about what? Me. And how many agents do that? We go into listing presentations as a job interview. So I want you to stop thinking about it as a job interview. We do. We think we're going in. And how many of you feel like maybe that's what it is? I'm trying to get a job. I'm going in and I have to present. When you're in a job interview, who do you talk about? You, right? And what do you talk about when it comes to you? I'm awesome, I'm wonderful, I'm great. And we start to even over-exaggerate a little bit, right? And it then becomes very unlikable. How many of you don't like people that keep talking about themselves and really exaggerate about that, right? So I want to get you away from that part of it, and that's what the home tour does. I want you to make it completely about them and their house. And that's what they care about anyways. They really aren't, if you believe it or not, even though they're going to think if they're going to hire you or not, they're trying to find out from you if your focus is on what? Them and their home. So I want you to go into a listing presentation believing that you already have the job. That's what I tell all of my agents that I work with. That's what I'm going to tell you. That's what I believe. I go in there already believe I've got the job. And I feel confident enough that what I'm going to show you, and I don't say it like this to them, but I'm telling you, I go in there without any thought whatsoever that I'm not going to get the job. I'm actually surprised if they don't give it to me, unless it's because of one of the other value propositions. If they want to go lower on price and I'm not willing to do that, and they don't think what I'm offering them is worth what they want, what they're trying to gain, then we can part ways. But I believe I already have the job when I go in there. So I come armed with my notepad, right, or my Remarkable. I've done all this research. I already have the digital CMA. Sometimes if I know the person, I might send it to them ahead of time if we're having discussions. Sometimes I have to warm people up as we're talking, but I do send them some information like that sometimes just to get the discussion going. The reason I do it with the digital CMA, which I didn't used to do when I had to print it out, is because the digital CMA is interactive. They can actually, even with sold data, look at the homes that I've used or the AI has found to compare their home to it. But guess what they get to do with that since it's digital? They click on it and they go through the pictures. I love it. I've gone into homes where they've actually said, yeah, when you sent me that, we thought our house, they've even said this, we thought our house was worth this, but then we saw these other homes that were worth this, and now we're kind of more in line with what we're seeing because they interact with it. And guess what they mostly interact with? Pictures, believe it or not. How many of you do that when it comes to homes? They look at the pictures. I love it too when they look at pictures of well-staged homes, right? And they're priced well, right, in the market. And they're like, oh, I guess I need to do that because that's what I'm going to talk to them about too. So that's what I love about the digital CMA. So that's what I do ahead of time when I go. So then I go to the door and I knock on the door. And I've got my hands with my Oculus goggles. I'll have my iPad because I bring a big iPad. And we'll talk about that because that's how I do my digital presentation. And then I have my notepad. So I've got my hands a little bit full and I knock on the door. They come to the door and they greet me. And what do you think they're going to do and expect you to do when they meet you at the door? Come on in. Let's go sit down and talk. Right? Does that sound about right? So this is what I say to them. Again, this is an SOP. You can put it in your own words, but this is part of our standard operating procedure. So I say, before we go in and sit down and we talk about, what I can do to help you sell your home. And I always use two phrases with almost everything I say to help you sell your home for the most money that you can get and to sell it just in time, right, for that transition. I always say that because I want them to think of that. Can we do a tour of your home? I would love to walk around with you. So I'm explaining what I'm doing. When you explain what you're doing, it's service. When you're selling something, right, when you're pitching something, it sounds like a sell, right? So I'm explaining what I'm doing and it sounds like, oh, I'm doing something to give you more of what you want. That's what I'm saying. And it puts them in this, it almost takes them off guard a little bit and says, oh, okay, great. You're going to tour my home. I want to tour your home to make sure I can help you get the most money for your home. And sometimes I'll say and sell it just in time and stuff like that. But sometimes I'll just leave that out. But what I tell them in this process is I tell them exactly the steps I'm going to take. When you have a standard operating procedure and you tell people what the steps are that you're going to take, it sounds refreshing from a salesperson, right? Instead of pushy. And so I tell them, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk around with you and ask you some questions about your property so I can get all the great information that I need to about it. And I'm going to take some pictures, but don't worry. And they'll even say this sometimes, you're taking pictures now? But the house is a mess. I'm like, no. I'm just taking pictures to help our team understand what your house value is worth. I actually do something very different than most agents. Most agents will come in with a CMA or comparable market analysis, tell you what your house is worth, and basically pitch themselves about why they want to be your agent. What I do is I determine what your house is worth in what we call a true value assessment. Now notice how I pause and then emphasize, because everything I offer has a name. Why does it have a name? Because it's real and it's valuable when it does. You ever notice that? Like I don't go to a restaurant and order the chicken dish or the meat dish or whatever, the vegetarian dish. It has a name to it. It has resonance of something very specific that has value. So everything I do has a name. So what I want to do is I want to do a true value assessment of your home. And then they pause a little bit and they're like, whoa, what does that mean? I said, so most agents will give you just a comparable analysis of other homes, but that's not your home. So I do that, but I also do two other points of value. I look at its current condition and its potential to maximize its value so you can get the most money for your home. Does that sound good to a client that's thinking, how are you going to help me? My job is to get you the most money for your home. I'm going to do a true value assessment based on 3 points of value. Everybody else just does one. I do three. I've already pitched what I'm doing, but not in a way that sounds salesy. Does that make sense? They're like, okay, and I say, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to walk around the house with you, and I'm going to take some pictures just so we can do that true value assessment. Don't worry, these pictures don't go anywhere, just for me and my team, so we can come back and give you the best advice on maximizing the value of your home when it sells. And then I'm going to ask you some questions about your property, and I'm going to write that down so that I really have as much information as possible. Sound good? Okay, and they're like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's start outside. Yes?
Well, I like the fact that you're talking about your team.
Yeah.
Because, like, even in pricing, if they're getting a team, that seems like a better deal, right?
Good, I'm glad. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Every one of you has a team, even though you feel like you work alone. Who's on your team, by the way? Titles on your team? Do you have a title officer? You have photographers, you have lenders, you have stagers, you have all sorts of people on your team. Just because you're the general contractor of that, that's your team. What was that? Yeah, you have those two. Sometimes you literally have people on your team, but talk about your team, right? Because most agents talk about one person. I'm right here. And you know what people think about that? What happens if you go on vacation? What happens if you get sick? What happens if this or this or this happens, right? And so now the team puts a bigger component to your offering. Okay, so then I go around and I take pictures of their home, and I start outside, and I go through this process. So if it's in your book, but you might want to, you can take notes on this too if you want to, because this is a really important part of our SOP. The first thing I do, and I do it in this order, I compliment something about where I'm at with their home and what I know about it. When I'm outside, that's when I drop names about this area is so awesome. You have Nolan Park right over here. I use the name. Nolan Park's right over here. And the Ranches Golf Course, right? And they just put in a Walmart up here, so it's very convenient, but it's far enough away. You see what I'm doing? I'm actually recognizing with them the value of their property based on what's all around their property when I start outside. And I say those things. So I start with a compliment. I don't exaggerate, and I don't make any critical comment, right? Oh, you're in a middle unit here. It'd be better if it was an end unit or something. You don't say any of that kind of stuff. You know, you're just talking about what values their property has, and I say the compliment first. Then I ask them a question, and the questions get more and more difficult as they go along. They're done in a certain order. So I have them on my remarkable in the right order, okay? With space to write down, because that's part of my SOP. So then I ask them a question. You know what I do after I ask the question?
Write down the answer.
Yeah, I listen, I write down, and I do the picture too. Because a lot of times I want to ask them a question that they need to think about, because I haven't built what yet with them, what I'm trying to do. Trust and rapport, because I win the deal when I earn what? Trust. I do want to gather as much information as I can. That's super important. That's a part of that. But my number one goal is that I build trust, and the trust is about giving them more of what they want in a way that helps them to feel like I care about them before I care about myself. And by getting involved with what's going on in and around their property, that's going to help me understand how to help them sell their house for the most money and quickly. So I take a picture, and then when they give me an answer, I put my phone away and I write it down. What happens when I write something down? I'm listening. Like, what's the worst thing that a salesperson does? If you think about salespeople, what's one of the worst things they do? They talk too much. Have you ever noticed that? Would you just shut up for a second and let me process what you're talking about? It gives them time to process. When they process and they think about it, they can come up with even better answers. So when I give time to write it down, you know, it's kind of funny. By the time I finish writing something down, they've come up with something deeper or something more, and I write that down, then something more. Sometimes my home tours take 45 minutes. It's happened that way before. Is it worth it? I've got the deal, so yeah, it's worth it. I write it down, I listen and stuff like that, and then I rinse and repeat. I basically walk around their house, then we go inside the house, and I just keep doing that, right? And I get a lot of really good information. So these are the questions that I ask in this order. How long have you lived here, right? Now, if I already know the answer, I might say, oh, so you guys have been here for 12 years, right? And then I'll just let that hang in the air as I take a picture, because then they'll sometimes tell me more. Oh, yeah, we have been here this long, and there's all these changes that have happened, or they just start talking. The more they talk, guess what that indicates? When they talk, they trust. Do you notice? How many of you know that to be true? When others talk, that means they trust you. When they don't talk, a lot of times it's because they're not sure if they can trust you with what they want to share. So when people share, sharing is a level of trust. One of the worst questions you can ask someone is, what's your top 3 concern? What's bothering you? You know, things like that. We ask direct questions sometimes thinking that's a good way to get them to open up about something that's very personal. That's the worst way to get someone to open up about something that's personal. Even with my wife, and we love each other dearly, if I'm like, honey, what's wrong? You're like, oh, shut up. You know, it's like, but if I just listen and if I'm just there, if I just give her a hug, all of a sudden she might start sharing things, right, that I wouldn't get otherwise. It's not just about wanting to know. It's about the way you go about helping them feel comfortable with you. This is about building trust, okay? So how long have you lived here? Why did you decide to move? Now, when I ask them why they decided to move, they're thinking in their head, do I really tell this guy all the personal things that are, you know, that he's thinking about? But as I give them a compliment about whatever space I'm in, outside or inside, the compliment already does what? It makes them feel good. So there's a good feeling right there. Then I ask them a question, but instead of if you're at the table in the presentation, I'm like, so what's your top 3 concerns? You know, what are you looking for? They're like, people are like, I don't know if I should tell them. I don't know what, you know, that you get all anxious. But in this way, I just say, so how long have you lived here? And then I take a picture after I've said something nice. And then I'll say something like, so why did you decide to move? And then I take another picture. I'm not making them feel like I'm pressuring them into anything. And then if they don't answer, that's fine. If they do, I've noticed that a lot of times in the beginning, they give me just short answers. What does that tell you? They're just answering a question, but they don't quite yet know how much to trust you. And then by the time I get to the end, they're literally giving me paragraphs of information. But they're doing it because they know now that I care about understanding this. So I ask them, where are you moving to and when do you hope to move? What do you like about your home? That's a wonderful one. What do you like about your home? I might go on. They'll just keep going, and I don't have to ask the question 4 or 5 times. What are the top things you like about your home or anything? What do you like about your home? Oh, we like this, and I'll write it down. We like this. And then I'm going around, and I'm taking more pictures, and they keep saying stuff. Is that a good thing? Good for them and good for you. And then I ask them the hard question, because that's a good question to ask to get them to open up, because now I really want them to open up. I ask them, is there anything that might need to be repaired? How would you like someone to ask you that question around your house? How many of you have something in your house that needs to be repaired? Raise your hand. Okay, if not every single hand is up, then I don't know if you really live at your home, because there's no way that there's not something in your house that needs to be repaired. There's always something in there. Now, a seller does not want to tell you what that is. Why is that? Time and money. That's the 2 things that they really care about. What happens when the inspection comes through? Right? This is the thing that's going to get them. So you want them to share right now what it is that might need to be repaired. Now, if they're really quiet, that's all right. Take another picture. Make another compliment if you need to. Don't just go to the next question. Let it hang for a while. Why? Because they're processing and they're thinking, yeah, the AC, every time it gets up to 90 degrees, doesn't seem to like to blow cold air anymore. And our dishwasher hasn't worked for 5 years, you know, and whatever. Does that happen in homes? All the time, right? And so if they don't say anything, I'll even say, especially if it's a newer home, you know, not so much, but like, especially if it's like a 30-year-old home, I'm like, oh yeah, and I'll tell them a story. I love telling stories, as you can probably tell. Storytelling is really good for building trust. Did you know that? Because it can take something that's kind of a hard discussion and puts it into a context that's not about them or about you, because it's about something else, someone else, right, in a story. Like, oh yeah, we had this one house, really nice house, it was only about 8, 9 years old. And I found out when I asked them that question that they had a leak that was on their roof that came into their living room. And they would just wipe it clean whenever that leak came down. But they just kept having a leak, right? And whenever it rained a lot. Now, we're in Utah, so unless it's wintertime that you're selling the house, you're probably not getting a ton of rain or snow coming in. So they didn't worry so much about it. But they shared that with me, which was really good, because I had a contractor. Hopefully you have a lot of good contractors that are part of your team. And I had a roofer come, and he found out that just where the A-frame kind of joined at this point, the water kind of just ran right down here, and over 9 years, the flashing kind of eroded and water kind of leaked through it. And so the roofer went up there and looked at that spot, and he goes, oh yeah, your roof is great, but this one area where that's happening, you need to put some diverters in. I didn't even know at the time what this was. This is like 10, 12 years ago. So it cost us $300 to put in these diverters. All it was basically when the water runs down, it just diverts it out from this area. So we put that, it cost $300. And this is what I told him. If we wouldn't have done that, and a roofer inspected the roof, and that doesn't always happen this way, but if they would have found that there was a leak, they could see it or it's not taken care of or whatever, and we didn't have that evidence that that's what it was and we fixed it and stuff like that, what would the buyer want? You know, many of you said that, a new roof. Isn't that crazy? How many of you have buyers that come in and the little thing, oh yeah, there was that little leak. Oh yeah, I want a new roof. Because that means if that's bad, then it's probably bad everywhere else, right? Even though it's only 9 years old. So I tell them that story, and then I let it hang as I take more pictures and stuff. And then all of a sudden, the floodgates open. They tell me, oh yeah, this happens, that happened. Is that important for you to know if you're going to help someone sell a house? Super important, because if you can nip in the bud, so to speak, or take care of issues before it goes up for sale, then you're not going to be in that position like a lot of agents are when, oh yeah, we got a great offer and everything's good, you're under contract, and what's the first, what's the first deadline? Due diligence, right?
Good story there.
I bet you all have them, but go ahead.
Just right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We just got under contract, and my buyers, guess what they did research on the seller on Facebook. Guess what they found? He was venting about a bunch of things.
Oh, good.
One of them was, then there was a leak in the house, and this happened, we're getting ready to sell. Then there was another leak in the house. I'm like, okay, what's this leak? Because it's not.
Yeah.
Ask for the disclosures. Yeah, I asked for.
And it's not in there.
Not
Yeah.
telling him that this was
Yeah.
found out, right? Nothing about a leak.
Yeah.
Nothing about a fix, right? So send him the screenshot. I'm like, I need to know what this leak is.
Mm-hmm.
They send an addendum to those disclosures.
Because they got caught in a lie, I guess, yeah.
We're not
So
trying to hide anything, he says.
those things do happen, and I want to nip those in the bud. But basically, the listening, the questions, this is all good. And then I go back to an easy question. What do you think others will like about your home? These are actually in an order. We research this. So please know that this is important in this order to do. So write them down. We tell all of our agents, have them already written down with space to write down your answers. And again, as you write down the answers, they're thinking the two important things that people already mentioned. One is you're listening and you care. The two is you're finding out really important information that is helping me, and I guess that must be helping you. I trust you. Now, I really feel I can't tell you how many of our sellers said, no agent's ever done this before. We never kind of get this kind of service that we're trying to show out there because we go in there like it's a job interview. My last question is, what are you hoping for in terms of timing and net gain? I asked them that directly, like some of you brought up, but I ask it to them after they've trusted me a lot. Because then instead of just giving a super high number and hoping that I agree with it and we do that little dance that I told you about, this is now about trust. And when it's about trust, then they are more vulnerable. I love that word vulnerable. Have you ever read any of Brene Brown's stuff? It's so good. When people are vulnerable, they become more sincere, more honest about that. And then they're like, yeah, we were hoping to get this much, but we understand that it might not be worth that much. But can you help us? And that's the position that you want to be in. Any questions about this? I hope it becomes a new standard operating procedure for you because honestly, I've already got the deal. You'll already have the deal just by doing this. But when you start giving the presentation that I'm going to show you, when you sit down with them, this will lock it in and they will sign right there. You as yourself, as a person, you don't have to be the salesperson. How many of you feel like that's the worst part of your job is I have to go out and sell all the time and pitch and elevator pitch and all the things that sometimes coaches will teach you? I don't think that that's necessary. Value propositions are demonstrated through earnest and sincere showing of what you can do, not telling, right? And doing it in a way that makes them feel like it's about them first. And that's what's most important. If you can put other people's needs and wants before your own, you'll be surprised at how many doors will open up for you. And when you put yourself first, how many doors start closing, right? So make it about others and not yourself, and this is a great way to do that. It's so important to have something to demonstrate. Don't bring a printed listing presentation. right? You'll have some stuff that I'll show you in a little bit that you can leave with them. Those are called leave behinds, not presentations, right? A presentation in today's world needs to be digital because a lot of what you're going to do is digital. So you have to have some sort of device. The reason I don't like laptops, unless it's one of those laptops like a Surface where you can flip the screen around, right? And it's a touch screen, because I don't want to be doing this while I'm trying to talk to them. It just feels weird, right, to do it that way. So I like to have something where I can sit there and face them, and this is supplemental, but it's still super important. Does that make sense? So that's another thing that you want to take with you, part of the SOP. It's basically your not only toolkit, right? It's your the things that you have that's part of your business, right? Like a 360 camera, stuff like that. The first thing I showed them was what's called an infographic. You've probably heard that term before. People love visuals that are visual. If you have a presentation that has a whole bunch of text, how many of you been to like even a CE class and they have like 50 bullet points and stuff and you're like, oh, you're already going to sleep, right? And you don't want to see a lot of text or have to read a lot. The idea is to give them something that they can look at and very quickly understand what you're saying and go back to it quickly. So my first page in my presentation is basically an infographic that says, and this is how I started out. And basically in the book and in the online training, if you subscribe to our CRM and do all the things that we have, you get all that online training with it. So you can, look at it this way. But the first thing is to say to them that there's 5 things I do to help you get the most money for your home and help you sell it just in time. And I say it that way. And I use terms that they think, what does that mean, just in time? And then I explain it. What does that mean? To help you transition from one home to the other. And I even tell them we're transition specialists, because they don't hear that. And isn't that crazy? That's exactly what they need. Does every person that sells a home need to do something? Even if they're an investor, what are they doing? Most likely. You know what a 1031 exchange is? What does that mean? They've got 90 days to do. Buy another home. And how many days before they have to select a home or 3 homes? Yeah, we have some title officers here that may know better than all of you. But yeah, you have certain deadlines that you have to meet, but they're trying to transition. Everybody's trying to transition. Now, if you're a good listing agent that does a great listing presentation, what should you also get from them as far as a service? The buyer side, shouldn't you? Think about your clients. Do you know what it's like working with 2 different agents, one on the selling side and one on the buying side, and trying to coordinate all that, let alone the other agents on the other sides of those? Does that make sense? It becomes a real headache. So the ability to be the person that they can count on is what you're showing them. They're trusting you. And that ability to help them transition is really what they're doing. I want the most money for my home. I also want to sell it, not quickly. The reason they think it's quickly and you think it's quickly is because we've created that. And that's a problem. They think that they should go online and find a house. They think that they should, talk to you 3 days before the house goes up for sale. That's the worst thing they can do. They've thought about it for a full year, and yet they're bringing you in at the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month of that transition. What does that mean in terms of your quality of service? What's your value to them? I'm a transaction coordinator. I'm literally a glorified transaction coordinator pulling out my hair because you made all the wrong decisions to get up to this point. Now you expect me to take care of all this in this short period of time. If you could work with your clients 4 to 5 months before they pull the trigger on things, or even 4 to 5 weeks, you're better off than trying to do it in a very short period of time. And you're better off not only because of helping them get what they want, but that's how you demonstrate quality of service. Quality of service isn't being a great transaction coordinator. I'm sorry. Hire a transaction coordinator. That's what I do. Most of that paperwork, someone else does, because that's not the best use of my time. But me getting their home ready to sell and getting them the most money for it, timing everything, putting all the pieces together, that's my expertise. And so I want to teach them as I go through this that that's what I'm going to help them to do. And so when I start my discussion, that's what I say. My job is to help you get the most money for your home and help you sell it just in time. And there's 5 things I do. I'm going to talk to you about verified buyer, staging your home, your grand open house, video marketing, and virtual tours. How many of you do all these things with every single one of your listings? Yeah, only a couple hands go up because we don't have SOPs. Oh yeah, if you pay me for it, I'll do all these things. I will do a virtual tour if it makes sense. If we can get your price down low enough, I won't need to do it. It'll sell really fast. We think these things, right? Is that an SOP? Is that a standard operating procedure of the way we do business? It's not. It's about being the thing that we don't want to be. That salesperson that does whatever we can to get whatever we can from whomever we can. And if that's what you want to do for business, it does feel sleazy to me. But when we don't have a set procedure and a set offering and we don't consistently deliver it, then who are we in the marketplace? No one knows and we don't know, because we're just trying to get the next buck. And if we're just trying to get the next buck, that's why we've got such a bad reputation. So let's change it. So this is what I show them. I say, this is what I do. Okay? So here's my presentation here. First thing I talk about is verified buyers. The thing that's actually the most understated and most valuable to them is this piece right here, and we don't even talk about it. This is what I tell them. My job is to get you the most people interested in your home as possible, because more people interested in your home is going to drive up price and drive up urgency. What are the two things they want? I want the highest price, and I want it to sell quickly once it goes on the market. So quickly it does happen once it goes on the market. So I'm going to attract all these interested buyers. Then hopefully we're going to get multiple offers. And I tell them that because in most cases we get multiple offers. Even now we do, because of the way we set up our homes. So we want to compare those offers. We want to make sure that they're good, is what I tell them. How do you make sure an offer is good? We verify the buyer. And how do we do that? How many of you call the lender on the buyer side? Yeah. I hope you all do. Hopefully it's part of your standard operating procedure. How do you know they can really pay? Do you get a verification of funds? When you call that lender, do you ask the hard questions? Hey, they're qualified. What's the lender going to say if you ask them if they're qualified? Yeah. Always going to say, oh, of course they are. Yeah. Have you done what? Have you gone through underwriting? Maybe they haven't, because full underwriting means they have to have an accepted offer, right? But what can they do? They can go through DU, right? Up to the point, but we ask them, have you verified what? What's the DU mean anyway? Have you verified incomes, funds, the employment, all those verifications? They can do all that. Most of them do not until when? Yeah. So I tell them, I can't accept your offer in a lot of cases, and I'll tell the family, I'm not going to be able to accept your offer until I get a pre-approval from your lender, not a pre-qualification. Anyone know the difference between the two? And then about those verifications. So I tell them that's what we're going to do. And so then what I do, I have it right here, is I show the clients the rep sheet. I give them a rep sheet. Show it to them. Give it to them right at this point. It's highlighted. What's highlighted on it? What's important to them? Money and time. Exactly. So I give them this. They say, see all the things that are highlighted? That has to do with money and time. So this 6-page document, this contract right here to buy a house, is in the favor of whom? The buyer. So this is a buyer trying to get your home. Most people just look at what the offer price is. This is what it looks like when they make an offer, and all these fields here have to do with time and money. That's going to cost you time and money. And then I give it to them. And then guess what I do after I give it to them? I shut up. Yeah, I give them time. It's good to let things process. Sometimes they'll look through it for a while. Sometimes they'll just look at it a second and put it away. But I give them the chance to do that. Sometimes they'll ask questions about certain things, and then I let them talk about that. But I give it to them. Why is it important that they see this? What did you say, Cassidy?
Know what to expect.
And value in you, yeah. So that's why you're hiring me. Because if you don't understand this and what people are offering, people will take advantage of you. And that's what they need to see. Okay, so that's really important. Okay, now, then we go to the next one. Then I tell them, okay, and I say this, and I hope you can say this too, because this is your retirement plan. I have a whole class just on creating a retirement plan for real estate agents. If you want to be a part of that, it's not part of the series, but we'll maybe do it again here. But basically, your retirement plan should be doing what? Flipping and rentals. You should, because you run across great deals all the time. It should be part of what I think what you do. So this is what I tell myself. I have lots of flips and rentals that I've done throughout my career, and I help my clients flip their homes into bigger profits. Now, if you haven't done that, you can just say that. Say that. That's the coolest thing. I help my clients flip their home into bigger profits. Doesn't that sound cool? Does it sound awesome to them? Because they're thinking of what? They think, I just got a home, and I'm just trying to sell it, and I just want to get the most money I can for it. But what I tell them is, I'm going to help you flip your home into a bigger profit. There is actually a range of value of every single home. That's why, giving you a number doesn't make sense. If an agent gives you a number, honestly, there's no such thing as a number. It's what someone's willing to buy your home for. And most homes have a range, sometimes well into the over $100,000 range. If you don't know that, it's because you haven't flipped homes yourselves, or you haven't bought homes and rented them out and held them. You should do that. But until you do, follow our SOP, which is to tell them, I'm going to help you stage and flip your home. And they're like, what? Like, I want you to make the most money for your home. Is that what you want? Yeah, duh. So I'm going to help you to do that. And so then I show them pictures so they know what that means. And based on their situation, I might focus on one or the other. I don't have to go through all three, and I don't have to go through a long explanation, but just say the way we live in homes, or sometimes when we exit the homes, the way people need to see them to get the most money for them is just different. And there's nothing wrong with that. So that's what I tell them. The way we live in homes and the way that they need to be showcased for sale to get maximum dollar is different. So I show them this example right here. 85% of staged homes sold for 5 to 23% over listing. The number one ROI suggestion that we can give is getting your house staged and ready to sell. Homes that have, and rooms that have too much stuff or not enough stuff look small, or they don't look as functional. Does that make sense? So I tell them that. By the way, next week's class, guess what it is? Staging and flipping. I'm going to show you how to do this. There's 4 basic things every house needs, and I don't care what experience you have, you can do these 4 things or suggest these without getting into that area where you feel like, oh, I don't want to tell them to redo their kitchen or remodel or something like that. You don't have to do that. Curb appeal is number 1. Number 2, anybody remember? Smell is number 2. Number 3? 3 is declutter, because we have way too much stuff in our homes. Sorry, we just all do. And then staging. Those are the 4 things. Does every home need those things? Right? So next week we'll go into the details of what that means and how you present that to them at this point after you get them to sign. The purpose of this presentation is to get them to sign with you, by the way. So you know that. Your goal when you go in and do this presentation, your number 1 goal is to get them to sign. And then you can do your job. Okay? So I tell them I'm going to help them stage and flip their home for bigger profits. Then I say, okay, now when your home is ready, we're going to market it and advertise it during the first week heavily in order to get as many people at the open house as possible. We don't do just any open house. And I tell them that. Every other agent does an open house. They don't know they don't know what they're doing. We do what's called a grand open house. It's the grand opening into the market. And that's when we get most of our offers, and usually that's when most of our homes sell. You know how often how good they like to hear something like that? Because they want it to sell quickly. We help you sell your home quickly. That's part of what we do. So if your house looks great and we advertise it well, the grand open house does what? It gets a lot of people there at the same time looking at the house. If there's a lot of people physically there in a house at the same time, what does that do for price and urgency?
It's an auction atmosphere.
Exactly.
And they put pressure on each other, not from you.
And that's what we want. And we do that. The last open house that we had for a house up here that sold for, the comp said it was worth $750. We sold it for $829. Is that good? But they put $23,000 into it. So we did give them some suggestions. They sold it for $829. It sold, is a full cash offer at $829 with other homes sitting on the market just as big, built during the same time. One of them still on the market. This was 3.5 months ago. Still on the market. They're down to $675, I think it is, $675 right now. And it's the same size as the house we had. It's not staged. They didn't do much to it. You know, it's a 20-year-old home, but you see what I'm saying? We help people make more money for their home. And we get a lot of people at the grand open house. And then what I show them is how we advertise to the grand open house. Every other agent, they put you up on the MLS. They tell you that they do all this work to get you on all the syndicates. By the way, they don't. I tell them that. I love how agents do it. Oh yeah, we put you up 250 syndicates. You know, it's going to go up there on Zillow and Realtor.com, as if you did something like to make that happen. You didn't. So I tell them that. Yeah, that's what an agent has the license to do. We put it up on the MLS, and all these others grab it. Right? Zillow, Realtor.com, and all the others. And they like to hear that because that's where they go anyway. They don't even know what MLS means, honestly, for the most part. So I tell them it goes on all those. But we do something different. We get about half of our buyers, and it's true. Right now, we're getting about half of our buyers. Guess where we get them from? The open house is a big part of that. They come because of our advertising. We advertise on social media. We get people using social media advertising that are on their feed and they're just going through and it knows everything about them, and they're looking for a home in a certain area at a certain price point. It knows that my house shows up because I paid for it. Most agents, they put stuff on social media because they think it's supposed to be free. We have a whole class just on that. If you've been taught to put stuff on social media that self-promotes and that you don't boost or you don't advertise, you're wasting your time for the most part. wasting your time. There's some branding advantages to do it in a certain area. We'll talk about that. But for the most part, advertising your homes on social media, advertising, paying for it, and doing it the right way, you'll get more business and sell homes faster, and you'll beat out everybody else. It really works, and we'll teach you how to do that. But I show it to them here. Like on this image right here, which they see when I show it to them, is see this one ad. We do 6 ads over the week of the opening house. 7,273 people reached. 377 people actually clicked on this. And then I tell them, but that's not just the full story. We used AI targeted marketing. You say that in your presentation. Does that sound cool? And I'll teach you how to do this. We use AI targeted marketing to find people looking for your kind of home in your area. And we get a whole bunch of people, a whole lot more people interested in your property. And we spend between $1,500 and $2,000 per property that we list on our advertising. Everybody's quiet. Why are you quiet? Do you want to spend? We do, on every one. Why do we do that? Is that a lot of money? Anybody feel like that's a lot of money? Yeah. Would you want to pay that much money? You don't want to. How much money are you making from this deal? Tell me. 20 grand and you can't spend 2 grand? You can't spend 10% to make that much money? Well, the reason you can is because you're not doing enough deals, number one. Number two is because you're selfish and you try. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just telling you that the thing is that's how they see it. If you can't spend the money, first of all, when you advertise like that, guess what it advertises besides the house? You and what you do, because that's what people want. They don't want you as a talking head saying that you're awesome. Look at my new Tesla that I just bought and I just got this award and I'm going to go to Cabo because I just wanted something and look at how much money I make. Did you know that a lot of agents that advertised about them and about what makes them so great? We put ourselves on billboard, top agent that made the most money. Oh yeah, I want to hire that person. Like what you were saying back there, I want the person that brags about the new Tesla that they just bought with my money. And it doesn't make sense because it's a broker fee. You see what I'm saying? It just, to them, it does not make sense that way. Don't tout that you're a millionaire because you help people buy and sell properties. You didn't get a law degree. You didn't go to a school. Many agents don't even have undergraduate degrees. Why do you deserve so much money? Because I help you get more money for your home. I'm an advertising specialist in real estate. Did you know the number one skill you can have as a real estate agent, and it's the one skill that most agents avoid? Sales and marketing. And it's not selling and marketing you. That happens indirectly. It's selling and marketing what? Homes, right? You're selling and marketing homes. So I show them how I do that. And they see it. And then if they're part of my Facebook or my Instagram feed, which I invite them to be, they see all my ads out there of my listings. Did you know we get listings from listings? How many of you get listings from listings? That's the best way to get listings, is from listings. You do 3 or 4 listings a month, right? Which you should be doing. You're going to get so many, you're going to have to build your team to deal with all those. Wouldn't that be nice? I have a full-time job. I do this full-time. I do 2 to 3 deals a month just because I want to be relevant. But I don't have to go out there and market myself. I market my listings, and that gets more listings. And I show them, not just tell them, I have to show them, you get a single property website. If you don't have a way to do that, because this is called a lead funnel. So anybody heard of a lead funnel before? So I talk to them this way because I use AI targeted marketing and I use lead funnels and I advertise on social media. Do you know those 3 things right there, and I spend $2,000 to do it? If you thought you already got the deal from the presentation that you did, now you got the deal again because you now showed a whole bunch of extra value because of your value of service. How do I spend $2,000, by the way? I spend $700 to $800 of it, sometimes up to $900, just for all the media, which I'll show you in a second, and I show them as well. Just the media costs me that much. I do drone, and I do Matterport, and I do a 360 video, and then I do bracketed photography. I do all that to advertise these properties. Then I spend another $1,000 on the ads themselves. I literally spend $1,000 on ads. But instead of advertising, hey, look at me ads, and hope to get a lead from that, I'm saying, hey, look at this home, but I get credit for it. And when they look at the house and they contact me and they come to my open house and I get more deals from it, I actually get more leads from my listing advertisings than any other advertising I do to try to get it for myself in some other way. Does that make sense? My ads get me business and sell homes at the same time. I'm double dipping. So it's worth it. $2,000 is what I spend, and I tell them that, and then I do it. And then when I spend that money and it's out there and people see it, I get more deals. So this is what a single property page looks like. Our system now pulls it up because before, like when you go on the MLS, even our own MLS pages, the pictures are tiny. Have you ever noticed that, how tiny they are? And then if you blow them up because they resize them, they're pixelated. They're not so sharp and clear. I love having great big pictures, and I use drone pictures and stuff. You know how well how exciting that is for people to see stuff like this? That's my landing page. So I show them this. You're going to get your own page for your website. It's going to look, or for your home, it's going to look like this, right? And then I go through and show them 3D tour of it. Even though you've seen them, most of your clients, they don't know much about them. So I actually give them this after I show them what it does. But so you can see what this does. You know, with a 3D tour, you can walk around the house, right? So you're actually walking around the property. You've all seen this, hopefully? Okay. They have it, by the way. Also, I don't know if you know this. We use our little Insta360 camera to do it. I want to see what this room looks like without all that furniture. Do you know you could do this? Is that not cool? So instead of people thinking, I virtually tour my home or virtually stage my homes, don't do that. Don't virtually stage them. Why? Because then when they come to the home, they're disappointed. That's what ends up happening. Get them really staged. But with your 3D technology, they can see what it's like without the furniture that's there. And I like to show it to them too, because then they look at their house and they're like, or this house at least, like, oh, that room looks really small. That doesn't look like, that's not as cool. How many of you feel like that's a cool picture compared to that picture, right? So now I'm planting in their head, they're going to need to stage their house, okay? And then I tell them this, I said, this is what we do. How many of you would like a floor plan of your house? And you can do it by floor, and it actually shows the dimensions. By the way, I actually give them the actual floor plans of their house, because the Matterport does that as well. And then if they want to measure a space, I don't know if you know this, but let's say, we'll just say this room. This is my master. I want to make sure my bed's going to fit in there. I can measure spaces. I can measure just the furniture itself, anything I want with this. And I show them, I do this for your house. I do it for every house. Here's what it looks like, you know, when they want to look at both floors. And once I show them this, I give them my iPad and I let them play around with it. And you know what's kind of cool is they're like, you're going to do this to my house? What do they think is going on in their head at this point? How much does this thing cost? You're going to do this to my house? And then I tell them, did you know that when you have 3D tours and drone footage and all this kind of stuff on your home, people spend 8 times more time looking at those homes than they do with homes that just have pictures. Did you know that? And plus, it doesn't even make sense. And I tell them this, 2-dimensional pictures to show a 3-dimensional home doesn't even work well. How many of you have looked at pictures of a house and when you got into the house, it's like, it's nothing like those pictures. Or you're like, I didn't give it justice. So this is what it does. You have a question?
I kid you not, I'm looking, my 86. I've been looking, that popped up, that particular house. I don't know you.
This house.
Yesterday, it popped up 5 different times.
Oh, wow, yeah. My advertising works is what you're saying.
Yeah, I kid you not, I saw it pop up 5 different places.
I love that. So just in case you didn't hear that, this is one of my listings that we just put up, and we have an open house. Please come this Saturday. And he's seen it 5 times. Here's the video of this property. Maybe you've seen this too because we've been advertising this as well. And then I'll show them the video. Whoops. And I will show them the whole video on my iPad. What are most everybody doing? You're not looking at me, you're looking at this. What does video cause you to do? You watch it. And they see this. I let them watch the video as long as they seem engaged with that video. Yes?
What happens with clients that they can't stage it? They're still living in it, they can't make it look as good.
These people still live there. They still live there. Yep. As a matter of fact, about 60 to 70% of the homes that I sell, people still live there. I have a stager, by the way. I don't know if I want to give you her name because then I did this before and then she got so busy. She's like, hey, wait, you're supposed to be helping me. But she stages homes when people still live there. She has furniture that she's all right to do that with. We pay a little bit extra sometimes. Yes?
I stage my homes as well, and I have had somebody say, "Oh, I thought it was vacant." Well, no, but I have people take pictures of like the bed, so they know how to make it when it's done, and how to just take pictures of all the things. So when they're using it, they can set it aside, but then just put it back.
So we'll stage other rooms and stuff like that. Sometimes staging is a plastic TV. We'll talk about this more next week. Sometimes staging is, a table. We've done that before with a headboard and blanket, and the whole setup. So it's not even a real bed there. A little sign that says "Don't lay on bed." Yeah. But yes, so to answer your question, we have many times where we're helping to stage homes. Your skill set, by the way, and we'll talk about this next week, should be that you can stage a home with existing furniture. You know what a lot of staging means for people that live in their homes? Taking 60% of their stuff out of the house. Yes. And we'll talk about next week how to do that. Because staging is it's a sweet spot between too much stuff and not enough. Their stuff might be nice, they just have too much of it. You should have seen this house. It took them 2 weeks to clear it out. They did 6 or 7 truckloads of stuff that went to family, friends, DI, and 3 storage units, which I always tell them, don't do that. Unless you're going to actually take it with you, because they're a retired couple, and they had basically the accumulations of 20 years of them and all their family stuff. And they end up paying for 6 years all the stuff in their 3 storage units and never get it out, and they could have bought it all brand new, but they can't give it away. Usually at this point on my iPad, I will actually take them to a single property website, and then from there I'll show them the videos and I'll show them the 3D tour. So I'm not going back and forth to the presentation itself. Okay, does that make sense? But you can use the presentation. I've even embedded video and 3D tours for you. You can use these if you want until you get your own. But you should be using your own. As a matter of fact, I recommend that you make 3 copies of this listing presentation, and you create one for condo, townhome, mid-range, and luxury. And then you use the one that's appropriate for where you go, right? So that they can feel like it's relatable to them. So that's one thing I'll recommend you do as well. So this is where I get into that virtual tour, and I have my goggles with me. So after they see the 3D tour and they look at it, and by the way, I hope you know, the 3D tour looks amazing on a phone. You ever seen it on a phone? It's cool. You literally just swipe and move and click and it goes through. Then on an iPad or a computer, it looks great. You just use your arrow keys, or if it's touch, you can do that. And then I tell them, have you ever seen a home with 3D goggles before, virtual goggles? I haven't had a single person say yes in all the years I've done this. And I've done this for like 10 years. Not a single one said, no, my kid has it. I didn't know you could do homes this way. If you live in New York and you're a real estate agent out there, did you know they use this stuff all the time? They're not going to drive you around New York City and take you into a penthouse to go look at properties. You're going to be in their office and you're going to be on a touch screen, or you're going to have Oculus goggles. Yes?
The other day at $1.5 million properties, and there was 15 of them. Not one of them had a matter.
I know, it's nuts. I can't, and you know what's crazy, what I love, because this shows value proposition, that value that you offer, is my clients will tell me, why aren't they doing, on the buying side, why aren't they doing a 3D tour? But I haven't, you know this, Mark, but I use my 360 camera when they're on the buyer side. I'll go ahead and do it for you. I'll walk the property with my 360 camera, and then you can do it that way if you want. But yeah, I don't know why. I think it's nuts. It's been around for 15 years, and people agents aren't doing it.
The listing agent's permission to do that?
Nope, as long as you don't publicize it. So if I'm doing it just for my buyer, right? If I make an appointment and it's for my buyer, and I'll show that we have a whole class just on that I gave out free to everybody. You can go through it. How many of you watched that video? Did anybody watch it? A few of you did. It's free to you, might as well get it. And it walks you step by step on how to use that 360 camera. Basically, you can walk through a home in about 15 minutes. And then you go home and you have a Zoom call with them and you show the house in 3D. They can have their goggles on and watch it with you when you do that. It's a cool experience. Yes, I wish more agents did that. And Matterport's better because they can walk it at their own leisure, and they can measure space and take furniture out if they want, and stuff like that. But I wish more agents did it. I really do. But as long as they don't, I'm always going to get the deal. Yes. If you don't know this, that little Insta360 camera, it's the X3, the 4 and 5 don't yet have it. I can do a Matterport where I put it up on a stand and just put it in there. I walk out of the room, let it do its scan. It goes every 8 feet or so. So it takes about an hour or so to do a house. But then I have a subscription so that I can host up to 20 Matterports at a time. Guess how much it costs me to host 20 Matterports at a time? $10 a month. Yeah, totally worth it. I actually have a videographer that goes and does it for me. because I don't have time to do that, but you can do it yourself if you want to save a little bit of money. But basically my videographer, or photographer, videographer, he does pictures, the bracketed kind. Do you know what bracketed photography means? You should be able to explain this because you tell them I do bracketed photography. Bracketed photography means that when they take a picture in a room, in a space, it takes 5 exposures instead of just 1. So think about it, if you're in a room that has windows, that has a lot of light coming through, and then you have a room that's a little bit darker, and then there's darker spots in the room, what happens when you have multiple exposures in a room and you take a picture with 1 exposure? It has to decide which one to choose. So some things are going to get washed out, some are going to be dark. When it takes 5 pictures and lays it over, it almost makes it look surreal. How many of you have seen pictures, and you can see them, I don't have it up anymore, if in that house you can look out all those great windows they have and see just as clear outside as you do inside, like our eyes work. That's what bracketed photography is. So I tell them we do bracketed photography. We don't do just regular photography, right? And we do drone footage of your home, and I show them the drone. And we do a 3D tour of your home that people can walk through and measure space with, and we even give you the floor plans of that home. They love the floor plans. We've even framed floor plans before and given it to the seller who's leaving because they want to keep a remembrance of that home, right? Stuff like that. Then I tell them I do a 360 video where I walk around with my 360 camera and explain all the super nice points of your home. Because on the Matterport, they can't, they're just looking at it on their own. This way I can walk around the house and I can give them some, this is a brand new stove and a new AC unit. They might not notice that. Or this has this or that feature to it, right? So I can do that, and then guess who gets credit for all that? I do, as I do it. So I tell them I do that as well. Then I tell them that I do an Eventbrite event, which we'll talk about, for your open house to get people there. I tell them, and then I spend $2,000 for all this. What is that telling that client?
You're investing.
You're a professional.
Yeah. You know what's the coolest thing? And it happens most of the time. I tell them that I charge 3% or whatever your charge is. I don't want to get into that discussion. That's up to you, what you do. What you charge on that. Guess what they almost always ask me? How much more do you charge for this? How much more do I have to pay for all this? And I've been tempted. I have been tempted to say, yeah, there is a charge. But I say, no, that's my job. That's what I do. Who would not sign for that? That's quality of service, is it not? And it's tangible to them. Oh yeah, I'm gonna come around and check on your house. I'm gonna be there when the inspector comes. I'm gonna make sure the paperwork goes through. I love it when agents say, I'm the best negotiator out there. I'm gonna negotiate like no one else has ever done. Something like that. Those type of things, I don't get it. When I show them this stuff, they get it. When I put those goggles on their head and they look around at a home, I have video. I take video and put that on social media of my clients doing this. Oh my goodness, this is so, and I'm going to do this to your home. How much is that going to cost me? It doesn't cost you anything more than anybody else would charge, but you get all this on top of it. How many of you, when you pay extra for something like a car or food or clothes or whatever, you know that all those things are the same no matter across the board. I can buy an old beat up car and it has 4 wheels, an engine and a transmission, and I can buy a $150,000 car and it has the same thing. Goes from point A to point B. Why do I pay that big of a difference between the two? There you go. It's all the extras. So guess what I just showed them? All the extras. And guess what I get? The deal. Because I don't even charge them more for that. Or maybe I do because I charge full commission. But when they think about what I'm going to give them to help them sell their home faster and for more money, and I give them examples of that too. Here's the homes that I've sold recently. The last 5 homes that I sold, all of them went for asking or over asking price. All but one went with multiple offers in this market. And even over what market value would be normally because we help them fix up their home. One house we sold, like I said, the one for $829, it was literally for sale. It should have been for sale for $750. But I said it's a 20-year-old home and it's got stucco everywhere. We put board and batten on it. We repainted the front of it. We put new countertops in and new carpet. I arranged the whole thing and took care of it all, and I even charged them for that, by the way. And I'll talk to you about that as well when we talk next week. And did all that, and their house sold just like that for the money they want. And then they gave me a video interview. I'll put it out there. You can see it. They could not be happier about what service I gave them. So that's what you want to be known for. If you're the agent that puts the home or the sign in the yard, like someone said before. Yeah, I put a sign in the yard, and then the buyer agents bring the buyers. I don't have to do it. Who said? Someone said that. Like, yeah, listings are fun because I don't have to do so much. And what I'm telling you is they know that. And if they know that, then they're like, well, then I'm not going to pay you. If someone else is willing to do it for 1%, heck, I'm going to take 1% for that. But if I show them all this other stuff, oh, wow, that's worth 3%. As a matter of fact, how much more do I need to pay you? That's what makes this so powerful. And then I go to end it. I want you, so we have the next 10 minutes before we have our sponsor come up. This is going to sound crazy. When I have them sign the ERS, and our brokers agreed to this, so you have to talk to your broker, I do not put a number on it. It's TBD. I don't put the number I'm going to sell their house at. Yeah. Oh, some of you don't do that. Most are like, well, that's the only reason they're signing with me. I have to put a number. Everything's about the number, right? That's what they care about. So I show them this next. I'm going to give this to you in about 4 or 5 days after you sign. I tell them they get it after they sign. If you don't tell them that they get it after they sign, then what happens? How many of you give your CMA and say, okay, call me when you're ready to make a decision? Yeah, we don't do that. Yeah, and they show other, yeah, they do. They show other agents the CMA, and then what do they try to do? They take the number that's the highest for the value and the lowest for the commission, and they try to match them up to somebody. Have you ever had that happen before? Well, this agent said it was worth this much, but you're only charging me 2%. Will you sell it for that much? Sure. Like, whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter anyway, because whatever number I put up there, it's going to matter what someone's willing to pay for it. So this is what I tell them. I want them to know I'm a professional. This is not some willy-nilly, your uncle's a lender, a real estate agent that can do this like anybody else. This is different. We do a true value assessment of your home. This is what it looks like, and I show them how thick this is. And I say, what I'm going to do is those pictures, remember those pictures I took of your house? I'm going to take those pictures and I'm going to put them in this assessment. And I put it inside of here. And then I tell them in this assessment the things that are some of the selling points up above. And then I give a bullet list of things that I would recommend that they do. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? It sounds professional. And then I show them on this last page, I tell them what they should list their house for. And I explain the difference. What your house sells for has nothing, and I tell them this. If an agent tells you what your house is worth, they don't know what they're doing. I say that. I know that sounds awful to say it that way. But what I say is that I give you a range of what I think your house should sell for. I give you a listing recommendation. We need to come up with a listing price. What it actually sells for is what someone's willing to buy it for. Is that not right? And so I want to get as many people interested in this property and fighting over it, the eBay effect that you're talking, the auction effect. I want to get them excited about the house, and that house price can go up because of that. But we need to get your house ready. And I'm going to give you what is going to help you get the most money for it. And so I'll give you a range, low to high, which every house has, of what I think your house could sell for, but we need to come up with a listing price. Okay? And you get to decide. I don't decide that, you do. I'm going to have you make that decision after we get your house ready, because you won't believe the difference that your house will look like. The only thing that that might happen that I hope doesn't is that you'll want to stay here because it's going to look so awesome. That's what I tell them. Your house is going to look so amazing, you might want to stay here. I hope that doesn't happen. Do you think they watch HGTV? You know what I'm talking about? So I tell them that. And I said, and you're going to get this document. We're going to do the research, and we're going to find out exactly what's going to help your house sell for the most money and for top dollar, and then we'll discuss what it should be listed for. But before I do this work, this takes us several hours to do. Before I do this work, I need you to sign. And I give them that. I said, so now we're at that point. I give them, so by the way, your ERS, don't give it to them digitally. I print the ERS out and I have it with me, and I put it down right there in front of them. And then guess what I do once I put it down there in front of them? I shut up. Thank you for saying that. I don't say anything. I don't try to explain everything. I don't go through. I just let them look at it. Do they spend time looking at that? Yes. They might not spend time looking at other things, but they spend a lot of time looking at that. And then they ask questions. And guess what answers I give them? Whatever question they asked. How many of you as a salesperson, have you ever asked a salesperson a thing, says, yeah, but, and then they tell you a bunch of other stuff, and then they try to sell you some more, and then they tell you about all this other stuff, and I just answer the question. It says here 3% on your commission. Like, yeah, that's what we charge for all this. And you don't charge anything. And this is what I love. You don't charge anything extra. And like, nope, but see on the contract, we don't charge anything extra for all the other stuff. Okay, that's good. Literally, that's how fast we go through that part of it. And then they can say, well, this is a 12-month lease, or I mean a 12-month contract, because I put it 12-month. And I said, yeah, we always do that because sometimes things do come up. You know, you decide to wait or something happens, you know, and then we can take it up later. But we spend $2,000, not to mention all of our time, on getting a house ready to sell. And if something were to happen that you need to change, you know, that just protects us from that. Just like if you were to sign with a lawyer or with the CPA or something like that. That takes care of that issue. So I resolve objections without creating more. Does that make sense? So I only answer the questions that they ask, and I just hand it to them until they sign. And every once in a while they'll tell me, well, we need to think about it, or we have another agent we're going to look at. And then I just say, okay, that's fine. I don't want to pressure them. I don't believe in the thing, no, you got to get that signature now, they won't do it. I showed them so much value that I promise you they'll call you back unless they don't respect that value. And if they don't respect the value, then you don't want to hire them. You don't want to hire them. You have a choice. It's not about them hiring you. It's about you hiring them. And so at that case, like, yeah, I don't need to do that. I do timeline goals. I always go through this with them before we go through that part of it. I let them know kind of what to expect. It's usually about 3 days before I have your true value assessment report done for you. And then it's 1 to 14 days before your house is prepared and ready to stage, because they'll ask about that. And then it's pictures will take another 3 days. And then the grand open house within 5 days, and then we review offers at this point right here. So they have a good timeline. And we'll even put a calendar together when I come back with this value report so they kind of know what to expect. Because I don't know necessarily how long this is going to take depending on what I recommend and what they decide to do. You know what's crazy? I give them lots of recommendations thinking they might take some of them. In almost every case, they want to do everything. They trust me enough to flip their home into bigger profits that sometimes they're spending $20,000, $30,000 to get their house ready. Do you think it's fun for me and profitable for me to help someone get their house, you know, updated and sold for that in a month? It's so much better for me. And I make money from that too. If you're not at that point, we'll talk about this more next week, then you just give them the 4 basic things, and usually it takes them a few days to do that, up to a week or 2, getting their house uncluttered and stuff like that. The last thing I want to show you here is the collateral that you're going to need. This is what the listing report looks like. The first 4 pages. Oh, by the way, you know how thick this is? Guess what the rest of this is? Stuff that I didn't have to really create too much, but I have to read. My CC&Rs are in here. My HOA docs are in here. The PR report that I get from the title officer is in here. So I need to have enough time to be able to get that. So those things are all in here. That's really impressive, and they can look through it. I have the deed and everything in there because you can get all that from Title I. They do an awesome job of putting that all together. And so I show them plat maps, everything, and I hand this over. I literally have other people help me put this together because mostly my title officer, by the way, they're sponsoring this. Please have a title officer that's one of your strategic partners. And then I'll have to tell Mary is, hey, Mary, I need you to, to print that or to send that to me, and then I just print it out. And then at this point, I do print out the CMA, so it's all part of it, so that they know that what I did wasn't just off the cuff, right? This is real information. Then I give them this if I need to leave something behind. You don't always need to do it, but sometimes I'll do it anyway. We've created, I should say, our team has created for you a 16-page agent services handout that you can print out that lets them know what that home value assessment means so they can get more details, what home staging means, what listing advertising means that I do for you. I could only put 4 pages on here. There's 16 of them. I've already created it for you. It's on Canva. All of you, because you came today, get the presentation, and you get this template, and you get the listing report template. So you're going to get all 3 templates. So please pay attention to the email that we send out, or even better, join school. So if you haven't done that, it's skool.com/captivate-agent, right? Yep. So I'll say that again. It's skool, it's an app too, .com/captivate-agent altogether. If you go there, it's free. There's no charge for this. You get this for coming to the class as part of this whole setup. So you go there, and all the resources that we have are up there. And then we have a lot of other cool things that are there too. Yes?
Including the recordings of all of these.
Yeah, even the recordings of the classes. Yep, share them with other people in your office if they want to see it and stuff like that, okay? Is that cool? Does that sound good? School cool? So to finish up, I promised a pair of Oculus goggles to someone. So you had to have gotten the book and you had to have hopefully read, whether you knew it or not. Let's have someone from Title I come up and do it. Yeah, come on up. Yeah, Taisha.
Okay, drum roll. Oh, not that.
Bailey Hansen.
Bailey, you got a new pair of Oculus goggles. Okay, now have fun playing with them, but make sure to remember to bring them to your open house. And we have a video that actually shows you, Braden does. There's Braden back here. You get to know him through a lot of these videos. He'll show you step by step how to use those in a house with someone to look at a home, because basically you send them to your website that has your single property page, if you have that, if you have it all set it up. So basically you can browse the web, but as soon as you go into a 3D tour of any kind, it will automatically come all the way around them and everything. It's pretty amazing. So next week is the staging and flipping. Please don't miss it, because if you're going to promise to get their house sold for the most money, and if you want your ads, which is the following week, to work for you, the house has to look good. Your ads will suck if the house doesn't look good. I'm sorry, there's no picture that's going to make up for a messy, dirty, yucky house, or if they walk into it smelly. So we'll talk about that next week. We're going to stick around for the next half hour or so, or an hour, if anyone's interested. All the things we showed you, that's the digital CMA, which I'll have to show you another time how cool that is. The single property website, the advertising. If you follow my directions in the book, when we get to that, 5 ads over 5 days. How many have done that before? And it's taken like 2 or 3 hours to do. Yeah, if you remember when we taught it. We now have it to where you click one button, you put the area, it creates the single property site yourself, and it does all the advertising. So all the advertising you saw, I spent 5 minutes to do that.